Shalom. I hope you liked the new trailer. My very, very talented nephew created it for us, and hopefully I will not get copyright striked because of it. Michael and Mandie have children, and they're running late. So we are going to start in a few minutes, but I thought I should start the stream so people are not waiting. If anybody has questions for Michael or Mandie or me, please feel free to put them in the chat, and I will try to remember to ask Michael. Otherwise, this is a part of this little series that I started doing of discussions with, hey, Noah, nice to have you back. This discussion that I started doing with people and their spouses together, because I think we need to form better and more cohesive online communities, and I think part of that is actually engaging people with their family and specifically their spices. That was a joke. I am speaking to Michael and Mandie today, and tomorrow I am going to be speaking with Chris Picow and his wife Sarah, and hopefully in the future speaking to more people and with their significant others. I've asked several people, and if I haven't asked you, that's not because I don't want you and your spice to come on, but because I didn't think I probably either forgot or I didn't think you would be interested or your spouse would be interested. But I generally, more than anything, would like to see people talking together with family, involving parents of children as much as possible. One of the reasons I think, it's hard to coordinate like that, and a lot of us who, like me, aren't married, don't have kids, have an easier time spending lots and lots of time being radically online, and that's not exactly healthy for the conversation, I don't think. And also, I think sometimes it might cause people who are married, who are having marital problems, to be more online, which also isn't very healthy. So I would like to see married couples receive a many people have asked me this. It's a complicated situation. I was almost married twice, but I have a feeling that this was not in the plans for me. The more I think about it, it seems that God has very different plans for me than I had for me. And that's fine, because he gets to make the plans. and I get to listen to his plans. And hopefully I get to listen to his plans. It would be nice if he would tell me his plans more clearly. Yeah, I sometimes wonder. But, I mean, if I was married with kids, I wouldn't be doing this. And I do feel like I am contributing something to the world in my special way, which I might not have been able to do if things had gone the way I had hoped they would. We'll see. But I do think we should privilege married people in online conversation, because I think we should privilege married people and families in society in general. And while that's something that cuts against my personal interests, I actually think it's necessary for somebody like me to say that, so that people won't be saying, "Oh, well, that's easy for you to say. You're married." It's not easy for me to say that married people deserve a privileged position in our society, but I think it's true. There's something very nice about it. A married couple is just a stronger unit than a single person. Ding, 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 ding. Yes, a married couple is far stronger than individuals, and I think the problem of atomized individuals is a huge problem. I to the point where I would be unopposed to saying you have to be married to vote, and you only get one vote per couple. And if the two of you can't agree on who to vote for, then your vote gets nullified. Ambulance going by. I think we would have a very, very different society and political environment if we only allowed married couples to vote. I also think we would have a very different society if we only had allowed people with children to vote. And I am perfectly willing to say only people with children may vote. I'm not sure if then I would allow people to adopt children, or if it has to be your biological children, or what if the children are out of wedlock? Not that any of this is actually going to happen, but I think it would be an interesting social experiment to only allow head of households. Yeah, they have an interest in the future, and I think people who do not have an interest in the future should not be what do you call it? Contaminating our cognitive environment. Even though that would again leave me out of it, I am perfectly willing to take that hit in order for society to be healthier than it is right now. You might want to expose the reasoning a bit more. Well, I mean, I think Eric Weinstein talks a lot about how boomers seem to not care about the next generation at all. There has been no effort to hand things off to the next generation. I would actually like to see a mandatory retirement age of like 80. I don't think anybody should be holding on to any position after 80. And just having that perspective of it's not all about what I can get done in my life and borrowing from the future and spending it, having no real care for the future. I think that's incredibly non positive, non productive. So yeah, isn't it obvious why it's better to have people who are married with children making decisions than random 18-year-old blue-haired cat ladies who may be in their 40s but still have the maturity of a 18-year-old at most. There's this whole dialectic between power and corruption here. The people who are most worthy of power would give it up, at least at some point. Yeah. Again, if you're in your 80s, like people I could name, how old is Nancy Pelosi? Nancy Pelosi is 82. Is she running for re-election? I don't know if she's running for re-election or not. Joe Biden obviously is very old. How old is Joe Biden? He is 79. He's not 80 yet. Frankly, I mean, why we have politicians that old involved is beyond me. Ooh, Chad, the alcoholic. I finally got COVID, so I'll be laying around like a sick bastard all week. I'm holed up in my room watching The Crown, which I've never seen. It's quite good. I feel like Dookie. I'm sorry you feel like Dookie. I have heard good things about The Crown. So I am looking forward to this series. Well, I don't know how much more. I actually do have to start working because my off season is going to be. Please do like and subscribe, people. By this series you mean The Crown. Speaking of people I have asked to come on with their spices, CW Weeks says some octogenarians would simply drop dead if you forced them to retire. Yeah. You know what? Okay. I believe we need emeritus status to actually be not a simply going away, but a senior position of my series. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know how many more people are going to come on with things. I love that CW guy. He's okay. I actually want to see CW go on EA Dawa, who is live streaming right now, by the way. It would be very, very interesting to see CW speaking with EA Dawa. I've been going on their channel on a regular basis, kind of as support, kind of to help correct a lot of the crazy things that not having any Jews around will allow people to think about stuff. But Khalil, he's a very smart guy. I think he is I am a fan of Khalil and a supporter. Noah says FLCCC website for COVID treatments. Easy does it. No reason to push. Let it flow. COVID is more of a pain in the A than I thought it would be. Yeah, I think I've had it twice, and it certainly was a kick. But yeah, it's. I mean, it certainly wasn't as bad as it wasn't bad enough to justify the lockdowns, and frankly, I don't think we would have had the lockdowns if it wasn't because certain people wanted certain people to be elected out of office. But yeah, we'll see what happens. People are going to have to get used to COVID. What bothers me is that we haven't had a national reaction to the fact that China unleashed this plague on the world. We definitely need to do that. Chilly fever, dizzy, sleep, yada yada. Of course, they took it too far. Yeah. The first time I just mostly had a dry cough. The second time it just felt like a flu. If it was COVID. The first time, by the time I got tested, it was like over, way over. Well, we may have over dealt with 9/11. The fact is, China is a real threat. But we'll see what happens. We hired them to work on coronaviruses, didn't we? What are we going to do? Arrest ourselves? I wouldn't mind seeing some people getting arrested. I would not be opposed. I would be completely unopposed to people who circumvented our research laws by outsourcing dangerous research to other countries. So I actually, while we're doing this, I might as well pull up. So I would have liked to see more people paying attention to this story. Peter Thiel criticizes Google and Apple for being too close to China. April 7th, 2021, from that horrible, horrible place, CNBC. Venture capitalist, early Facebook investor, and conservative donor Peter Thiel criticizes U.S. technology companies for being too close to China. Thiel criticized Google for its work on artificial intelligence, mainly around the company's artificial intelligence work with Chinese universities. Thiel also said that Apple was unlikely to confront China because of its massive supply chain to manufacture iPhones and other products in the country. And previously, Thiel had said that he thinks Google should be... So, since everything in China is a civilian-military fusion, Google was effectively working with the Chinese military, not with the American military, Thiel said. He also said that Google insiders told him that they worked with the Chinese because they figured they might as well give the technology out the front door, because if they didn't give it, it would get stolen anyway. A Google spokesperson told CNBC, "These allegations are baseless. We do not work with the Chinese military. If you work with the Chinese, you work with the Chinese military. I'm sorry. We are proud to continue our long history of work with the U.S. government." Including the Department of Defense, in many areas, including cybersecurity, recruiting, and healthcare. Not immigration services, though. Thiel had previously criticized Google in 2019, saying that the FBI and CIA should investigate Google and ask whether it had been compromised by Chinese spies. I agree with that. Let's see, where were we? I mean, psychologically, we haven't dealt with it and our trauma and trust. Yeah, well, part of the problem is we don't have good national cognitive distributed cognition. So, yeah, that's sad. We're so beholden to China, you have to work for the U.S. spy complex to criticize them. Yeah, Peter Thiel is one of the few people who I think is actually counteracting the horrible things. It's okay if you can't spell, Chad. You're still the chattest alcoholic I know. And we understood what you were saying. Okay, so that's that. I expect the Sartoris any minute now. If anybody has particular things they would like to talk about while we wait, we can. There are, according to StreamYard, there are 8 people watching and only 3 likes. Come on, people, press the like button. I wonder which one of my videos has the most likes. Is there a way of sorting your videos by likes? Let's see. Content. Likes. That one has 4. That one has 6. 6. 5. 8. 8. 11 likes. My conversation with Cal has 11 likes. That looks like it's the number one liked a video. 12 likes. White nationalist destroyed with facts and logic. Wow, that's my most liked video. Also 12 likes. Who is Claire Caw? Okay. My 2 most liked videos tied at 12. John Calvin is a Murderer has 12 likes. 3 videos tied at 12 likes. Let's see. Anything else? So John Calvin is a Murderer. Who is Claire Caw? Or Introduction to Anti-Semitism, 18 likes. That is number 1 for the live stuff. Let's see about the other videos. Conversation with Bill Schlegel, 18 likes. Conversation with the Anadromist, 38 likes. Let's see. So, yeah. My Yeah, no competition whatsoever. My Genesis 1 video has 163 likes, so that wins. The only thing I know about The Crown is that scene where Margaret Thatcher recites the poem, one of my favorite poems, to the Queen. It's yeah, I love that thing. I found it interesting you referred to God as him. Expound, please. So we generally refer to God in the masculine, but that doesn't mean God is masculine. It's just how we refer to him, because it generally includes the feminine, but also because the masculine is also what is considered the more front-facing aspect of characteristic. I, in turn, love that fragmented dude person. I do too. From what I've been paying attention to, I dig the crown. God has 2 he's in his name and no she's. What? Claire Caw put me on the map. Secular Cornism with Israeli characteristics. Claire is hilarious. She really is. I kind of wouldn't mind if someone did a good faith analysis of Muslim legal systems despite CK. I think the Muslim legal system took the Jewish legal system and took it way too literally. We don't actually impose the death penalty and have not for thousands of years, whereas Muslims do impose it a lot. Those are rookie numbers. Thank you, Svach. But yeah, 163 likes on my Genesis 1 video, which I never thought like 100 people would watch that. I still don't understand how 100 people have watched it, but it has over 10,000 views. All legal systems work in roughly the same way. No, that's not true, and you know better than that, Claire. You are, after all, you have been called to the bar. So, as an attorney of the Crown, in Her Majesty's service, and possibly a representative of MI5, MI6, or MI 1, 2, 3, 4. So, no. We should be getting going soon, but when people have kids, they have kids, and that's just the fact, and I like that. Yeah, you don't understand what the Torah is. That's not how the Torah works. So what else are we going to talk about? I did not think it had 163 likes. That's pretty nice. I'm happy with that. I have contributed something worth 163 likes to this world. I like it. I like it a lot. What's the gematria for 163? Kuf Samech Dalid. Nothing particular that I can think of. What would... Oh, Gimel, sorry. Kuf Samech Gimel. That's even less than... let's see. What has a gematria of 163? I'm not thinking of anything in particular. So 163. Etzba, forefinger. Kafaf. Znunim. Wow. Yeah, this is not a very good one. Ben Ola. Ben Avla. Yeah, not not. It is the 38th prime number. 163 is. Etzba. I guess etzba is the worst word there. The best word there. What are my thoughts on Kabbalah? My views on Kabbalah are the same as vast majority of Orthodox Judaism. I believe that the Kabbalah of the Arizal is the proper heir to the esoteric tradition that existed on the tradition that existed during the time of Jesus, which we know did in fact exist before the time of Jesus. I do believe that the Kabbalah of the Arizal is the proper heir of that. Any chance of getting a burn power hour going on your 24/7 distributed cognition streaming network? I would certainly love to see. Right now, I would love to see anything on a 24/7 streaming network. If people are willing to, and obviously burn power would be a great addition to something like that. In fact, I think streaming his videos, including his How We Got Here series, would be great programming for a network like that. But good vach, my friend Torah and friends, and shalom. But I should actually probably ask Burn back on my channel. It's been a while. When was he on? Burn was on April 8th, 2021. It's been a year. It's been over a year. Probably, it's certainly one of the most popular videos I've ever had. Oh, I didn't realize. I was looking at comments, not likes. Yeah. Yeah. So what else are we going to speak about? How do you guys like my new countdown video? I'll play. What do you guys think? Noahides. What do you want to talk about Noahides about? I think we are going into a period in which Orthodox Judaism is going to have to realize that Bnei Noach are an integral part of the Jewish tradition, and we need to include them in our caste system. And yes, Judaism does have a caste system, and I am fine with the caste system. I support the caste system, even though I am part of the lowest caste. And whether people like it or not, there is a fourth caste in Judaism, which is the Ben Noach, and we need to properly integrate Bnei Noach. Which conspiracies about the Jews do you think are real? Conspiracy theories about Jews? I mean, anything that's actually real, like, people accept, I think. And frankly, I think people... It's weird. Like, the Jewish community is just so fragmented. I like your interpretation and opening of the idea of Bnei Noach. I mean, at least one person agrees with you, but there is not a ton of people who do. Okay, so Michael will be here in a few minutes, he said. Any comments on my new timer video? No comments? I mean, it really does depend how much support there is for it. I have to sit down and actually write that book that I was thinking of writing, that I have kind of started. Woo! One person likes the timer. Cool. Well, we just have to find out if YouTube is gonna copyright thing. I feel like a jerk if I say I like the old one. The problem with, well, the 30-second one is whatchamacallit is the 30-second one is belongs to StreamYard. The old one with Happy's face on it, the problem with that is YouTube has started identifying the music, so it messes with the description of my videos, and I just don't want to deal with that. And also, I have to wonder if, because it is from Google's library, if they're going to start, like, bothering my Twitch streams. Not that so many people watch me on Twitch. I probably should start streaming to more platforms. Unfortunately, Rumble hasn't integrated streaming with StreamYard yet. I'm not a huge fan of Facebook. I guess I could start a Facebook page to start streaming, but, like, I'm not on Facebook really myself anymore, so I don't really care about streaming to that. I'm not gonna stream to Twitter, and like Twitch and YouTube seem to be the only really viable streaming platforms. Although I wish StreamYard had a better capacity to choose. Should probably choose their thing more better. Yeah. I mean, StreamYard is actually very, very good. I've been very pleasantly surprised by how powerful it is. So I can't complain too much. But there are things I would change if I could. Ooh, Salman Rushdie. I have not discussed Salman Rushdie yet. And while I should not get my cues from Claire, I think blasphemy laws are a mistake. I think the fatwa was an obvious mistake. No, I didn't. And frankly, I don't really care. Pikachu, I don't think he's an honest actor, even though I know Khalil likes him. And I don't even care about T-Jump. I see no reason to debate atheists. Atheism is just so obviously wrong. Like, yeah. We will hopefully be starting in a few minutes. I had never actually heard of T-Jump before this debate. I'm just not interested in atheists anymore. I used to spend time paying attention to some of them, but frankly, over the past 4 years, I think anybody who was a atheist has moved on. Yeah, so JBP, his video with Pajot and Vervaeke was obviously awesome. And then what was the other video that he recently had that I really liked? Oh yeah, with Ian McGilchrist. Unfortunately, I think Ian McGilchrist is a much better. I just call Vervaeke VVK when I don't want to bother trying to spell it, even though I've gotten to the point where I know how to spell it. But Ian McGilchrist is a much better thinker than he is a communicator. And his new book, I mean, what was he thinking? Setting it at $150 in 2 volumes. He needs to make a popular version, self-publish it. The publisher that he chose for The Matter with Things, it's not like it's a prominent academic publisher. So why is he bothering with academic pricing? $125 for a 2-volume thing of The Matter with Things? It's like, dude, please, you really need to start thinking Bart Ehrman, you know? A popular edition that people can read, including, like, even me. Like, I read The Master and His Emissary. I don't recommend it. What would you recommend to get into IM? What do you mean by IM? What else did he have recently? Oh, Ian McGilchrist. Honestly, you can read The Master and His Emissary. If you do, I recommend reading the last chapter first, reading the second half before the first half. Ooh, they're here.
Hi. Sorry it took us so long to get here.
You have kids. Yeah. You have kids. You are excused.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hello, Mandie. We have never spoken before.
Nice
How are you?
To meet you. I'm good. The kids are in bed. I'm good.
Well, it's hard having kids.
It's good and hard, right?
Yeah.
Like anything worth in life.
Right. I love kids. I babysit other people's kids. Like when they ask me to babysit, I tell them I'm not going to pay you for the privilege. And I mean it. Because I absolutely love kids, and I've taken care of a lot of people's kids at various times. But yeah, I don't have kids myself. But we're here to discuss the two of you. So Michael's been on a few times. Tell us about yourselves and what you would like to share, as much as you would like to share. Who are you, Mandie? Sartori.
This is very existential.
She's a real professional. She has a title or something.
Is it Dr. Mandie Sartori?
No, thank God, no. Not qualified even remotely. I do a lot of different things. I have a lot of different hats. I would say first, obviously, I'm a mom, and so that kind of colors everything. It has taken a new identity that I did not expect it to be. And then what I get paid to do is I'm a children's director at a church.
Oh, nice.
And then
may I ask which denomination of church, which flavor?
Can. It is a non-denominational church. So
it's Baptist.
No, you'd think so, but no, I don't think that we would align.
Well, probably basic. I don't know.
Every time I hear non-denominational, it ends up being Baptist.
It's definitely not. They're way more liberal than I have come across some of my Baptist friends and their theology.
Okay. But Michael tells me you come from a Jewish background.
I do.
So tell me about that. Were you raised Jewish?
I was raised in kind of a smorgasbord home.
Okay.
My mom's, so I'm Jewish by heritage from my mother's side, and Seidel is our name that has been passed through, and we are Russian Jews, and then they ended up in Canada and then migrated down. And I've still got some family members in Israel. And it's kind of an interesting mix because my grandmother rocked the boat because she fell in love with a Greek man who was not Jewish.
Aha.
Because of that, she and her husband, obviously my grandfather, excuse me, decided that they were going to raise their kids however they wanted to be raised. And so they celebrated Jewish holidays and holy days, but I'm so sorry. I'm parched. This is my
you are such a mother. from a sippy cup.
Anyway, I'm getting distracted because I'm used to the camera being on the other side. I apologize. And I'm looking in the wrong direction. That's much better. Thank you.
Okay.
I'm so sorry we were late too.
No, it's perfectly fine. It's like this was part of what I was talking about before you came on, was people like me who don't have a wife and children get to be on the internet constantly and do things like this, and I think that actually negatively affects the conversation, and that's why I've started doing this series. You're the third, and tomorrow Chris and his wife are actually going to be on. Chris Picow. And because I think that negatively affects the conversation, because we're weeding out the people who have real lives that are busy with kids and they're not as involved as the crazy single people with cats, and I think it negatively affects the conversation. So part of what I wanted to do is involve parents. And so do you guys remember when somebody complained, I think it was a Catholic priest, it might have been a Protestant pastor, complained on Twitter about the kids being loud in church, and like the entire internet came down on him like a ton of bricks? I was really happy about that, because one of the things I really, really dislike, especially this tends to happen in Reform and conservative synagogues, not in Orthodox ones, is, yeah, if your kids are too young, you shouldn't bring them to synagogue. And it's like, no, that's not how it works.
I fundamentally get bothered by that. And it's something that we have tried to adjust or look at. Specifically with my position, I mean, I never thought that I'd be a children's director. It wasn't something that I grew up wanting to do. It's kind of something that I fell into, and I'm grateful for the opportunity, but I really care about adults. And so I kind of look at it as I'm working towards the parents to help them be good pastors of their home. And it's really hard to teach a kid that they're part of a body or a congregation if you are constantly saying you're not welcome here. Yep. And so we started shifting like our grade levels that are coming into the larger body meeting so that they can feel like, okay, I belong here. This matters. I matter to this. Because why would any kid, you've got to start somewhere.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it's incredibly important that I think part of the problem, one of the things I keep on saying is our society has become a lot of atomized individuals, and we're not atomized individuals. We're people who human beings need human beings in order to function. And the most basic unit is not just the nuclear family. Actually, I think it's really important to also include grandparents and cousins and things like that. But at the very least, like dealing with people on a couple basis. Like if I were inviting Michael to anything in real life, of course I would invite his wife. But this idea that like, oh, I'm inviting him on my channel and I'm inviting his wife, I think that's kind of novel to people, and it shouldn't be, because of course, like, it's part of who Michael is that he's married to you, and it's probably the most important thing in his life, right, Michael?
Yep.
I totally look like I'm taller than you too,
Yeah.
because of the way that this seat.
Are you taller than him?
I'm most definitely not taller than him. I, on a good day, barely reach 5 feet.
Oh wow, okay. So you are a Jewish woman. So what do you think of his channel? Do you get to listen to it? What do you think of Bridges of Meaning? Our little corner of the internet, all this weird Jordan Peterson stuff. What does all this mean to you?
I think Mike was like a ship waiting for a port for a long time. And he had all these ideas swirling around in his head. And for a while, our life was such that I was so exhausted. I look like I'm so emotional right now. This is allergies. Um, and for a while, I think all of these ideas were brimming around. And because we wouldn't get a chance to discuss it, we were both just like done. Me with the kids all day, or him with work all day. And then he's got all these ideas. He's got no one to talk with. And I think he felt like he was this rudderless ship. I don't know if this is accurate. And so I feel extremely grateful that he has an avenue to be able to communicate all of these thoughts that are ruminating around, and for him to be able to discuss and dialogue with people who challenge him and encourage him and make him feel like he's not alone, that he's got a port that he can dock in. I love that. And my husband is so freaking smart. And so it's really exciting to me. And he's also the most shy individual I have ever met.
Really?
So shy. So shy. When we got married, he wrote a song for me. He performed it at our reception. And people were
YouTube
shocked.
Now. That's on my channel.
Oh, it is?
I put the little we didn't
get a videographer. We were broke.
And we didn't have somebody videotape it, but we have a few like clips from cell phone video that some people gave us. So I just put that on like a week ago or so, a little short clip of a couple songs that we did from that. So but yeah.
So people were shocked that he had.
Nobody knew that I could do things.
That he could sing. People knew he was a musician, but I had several friends communicate to me that they were blown away by the fact that he was able to like get outside of himself. And so those friends who we don't get to see now that we live in Texas have started listening to his channel, and that's really exciting to me because they'll communicate with me some ideas that they have been learning. And I love that he feels comfortable and safe to be able to express himself in the way that God has ordained for him to communicate.
Yeah, well, so this was my idea, is that she meets like a million women all the time. Like when we moved here, she signed up for Bible studies at like 4 churches like right away
because they had childcare.
And then she'd make friends or whatever, and then she'd always like, her and her friends would always be like, oh, I hope our husbands will get along or whatever. And then I would always meet these guys, and they were so boring, and I did not care about anything that interests them. I don't like golf. I don't like football that much. I don't like whatever, I don't know, whatever people that work for like oil companies do for work and fun. So I figured I'll make this YouTube channel, and that way, if you really want any of these guys to like be friends with me, like have them watch this, and then if they like it, then we'll have something to talk about. Like, because I do like, but I am introverted, but but I do have things I want to get out, so that's why I make the videos. But I like to cut to the chase with people. Like, I don't want to wade through all this small talk if they don't actually have anything interesting that I want, in common with somebody. So that was kind of my idea. It hasn't really worked yet, but
Well, you made friends with me. That's what's most important, really.
yeah.
So, I had a little chat stream before you guys came on, and one of the things I was talking with Noah, who's somebody he actually lives in Los Angeles, but I've still never met him. But we we interact on the internet, which is the weirdest thing. But he so he's Protestant as well. No Jewish background, but he's been going to synagogues. And I mentioned to him what Michael said. Oh, this is Noah. He says hi. So I mentioned to him what you told me about your feelings about integrating Jewish ritual into Protestant practice instead of what a lot of people in our corner of the internet have been doing, which is becoming Catholic, or like Job, who's the Protestant who he prays the rosary every day, and like people are becoming Eastern Orthodox. So I wanted to, first of all, to hear your thinking about that, and what that's been like, and just tell us what you think and stuff.
You want my opinion or her opinion? I feel like I've talked to you about that a lot, but
well, there are people watching who are not me, believe it or not. One or two people do. Apparently there are 3 people watching at least this channel right now. So
do you want me to start?
Yeah, go ahead.
So something that I never finished the background part of it, but when my grandparents decided that it had been a tension point and they were going to raise their kids, however, all 4 of those kids ended up at a Congregational Protestant church. And they became professing Protestant Christians. Mm-hmm. And I think my grandmother was like, I don't care. Which leads me to believe that her Judaism was very situational and not very intrinsically a part of the why, I guess. Right. Anyway, so when I started getting a little bit older, I was probably like 7, and I started getting fascinated about my genealogy and all of that stuff. I was really young and did a deep dive into the Holocaust, because that's usually where it starts for most people, and was obsessed with Anne Frank. And we started then, my parents meeting with my aunt and celebrating holidays with her, because we hadn't been doing that. And so we did that growing up for a good long time. And I was fascinated by the rhythm and the orthodoxy of it, because the churches I grew up in didn't really have any orthodoxy. And I feel like it's innate in us that we want rhythm and we want tradition, to steal a line from Fiddler on the Roof. And I think that is comfortable and safe. And something just speaks so loudly to me about the orthodoxy of the Jewish faith. And I do think that it is something that is largely missing in Protestant churches, that we are kind of like drifting and looking for the next big thing to get people into the doors instead of saying, this is who we are and this is what we stand for. Please join us.
Mm-hmm.
And so I read a book in college called Mudhouse Sabbath. And I think the author's name is Lauren Winner. And she was an Orthodox, I believe, or maybe she was Reformed. And she became a Protestant.
So it says, yeah, conversion from Orthodox Judaism to Christianity. I have to tell you, I am very, very skeptical of people who claim to be Orthodox Jews and convert to Christianity, because every time I've checked it out, it's almost never true.
So she wrote,
there's a lot of people who make this stuff. Yeah.
What interested me about her story was that she wrote Mudhouse Sabbath as she was transitioning, and she used a lot of the orthodoxy of what she had been brought up with to point back to the truth of Scripture, and instead of it being like tied to what she grew up in youth group or tied to what her parents told her, it was tied to like historical liturgy and things like that. And so that is a long roundabout answer to say that I really do think that our churches miss that. It's something that I was always drawn to. It's something that like Lauren Winner just so beautifully pointed and kind of did an exposition into. This is what this actually means, and this is how the Protestants are missing the mark, and this is how we can incorporate this into worship, because it matters, because we're all children of God, and no matter what sect we are.
So
that's a very long answer.
I actually just looked up her Wikipedia thing. Winner was born to a Jewish father and a Southern Baptist mother, and was raised Jewish. She converted to Orthodox Judaism in her freshman year at Columbia, and then to Christianity while doing her master's degree. And so I had this discussion a little bit with Michael. So according to Orthodox Judaism, you and your children are just Jewish. So it's kind of weird. I was just talking to my rabbi about somebody I know who is not halakhically Jewish, but he puts on tefillin every day. He's very active in Judaism. And obviously, as not being halakhically Jewish, it's like we would actually, I mean, people who are believing Orthodox Jews, and I would like to think of myself as that, even though obviously I don't observe. Like, we believe that it's actually spiritually damaging to him as somebody who's not Jewish to be taking on these Jewish things. Whereas, the opposite would be true of you and your children. Like I told Michael, if you were to call up the local Chabad, which is the Hasidic synagogue, they would gladly invite your whole family for Shabbat dinner and to synagogue services, and and that does come from a belief that Judaism isn't an ethnicity, that there's spiritual realities to it, which Reform and Conservative just don't have. You know what I mean? They don't actually believe there are spiritual realities to Jewish law, which obviously I do, right? So so that's just my thinking about it, and that's why I was, when Michael was interested in Passover, or I suggested, Shabbat candles. The Rebbe, who was the leader of the Hasidic group Chabad, which I'm involved with, he was really, really big on Jewish women lighting Shabbat candles, and he he really thought it's a very strong thing that and some people have said that they feel it has spiritually really connected with them. Um, but again, like being respectful of you and your beliefs, right? It's like, well, you have your beliefs, just like this boy who I don't believe is Jewish. He thinks of himself as very Jewish, and that's the lifestyle he lives. And he's like, what do you mean? I put on tefillin every day, and the vast majority of Jews don't. And uh, it's a weird position to be in, because I do want to be respectful of his identity and his beliefs. At the same time, for me, it's like I believe it's a spiritual reality. And some of the people who are involved in our community, my Discord server, Michael's a little involved in that. You know, what they've gotten very offended when I've said, it's our belief is that a Gentile keeping the Sabbath the way Jews do is spiritually damaging. And I wouldn't say that to him. Like, there was one particular person who uh, it it did damage our relationship when I said that, and the easiest thing for me would be to say to him, oh, you go right ahead, you do whatever you want. But it's just very difficult navigating that place. And at the same time, like I would like to, I'm sure Michael would be a lot happier if I did believe that Jesus is the Messiah and that Paul was his apostle. And I respect that, and that's why I was happy when Michael. I don't know if you listened to Michael's episode of Spotify of Post Platonic or not.
I think I shared that one with you. But
okay.
No, I haven't gotten to listen to that yet.
Okay, so I started this thing that it's the idea is to get lots and lots of people to host this. It's kind of like a radio show. It's music, quotes, and it's a lot like a radio show. It has you can use any music you want from Spotify. That's part of what I like about it. And Michael did a tribute to Paul, who may be Paul of Tarsus, who I jokingly and somewhat not jokingly refer to as Baal of Tarsus. Not precisely my favorite theological figure in the world. And he dedicated it to Paul, which was beautiful because it's honest. And that's the type of honesty I want from my friends, and what I think we have in this corner of the internet. And that was me talking a lot and not letting you guys speak. So what do you think about all of this that I said?
Well, I think, I understand like the, let's see, let me put this. I think we know like that there's damage has been done in the example of like science, where everything is trying to always like reduce everything down, and like you have a whole person, but then if you cut a person up, well, they're just made out of blood and tissues, and you just cut up blood and tissues and it's just made out of cells, and these cells are just made out of little bits of stuff, and you just keep trying to like the more you try to like reduce it to find like what is the essential thing, you lose that. You can't find it by like deconstructing, I guess you could say. And I think that we've done that to a certain point with the liturgical and ritual aspects of worship, which is why so many people are going full speed to I'm going to go Orthodox or Roman Catholic or Orthodox Judaism or whatever, because it's then you're going back to a system that has the whole package. But here in Protestant land, I'm saying, okay, we've probably gone as far as we can with the deconstruction. I think the deconstruction stops at the Bible. Once you start not using the Bible or cutting up certain sections of it or whatever, which you could even argue about which parts of the Bible are the Bible. But when you have church that doesn't even have the Bible, then it's not church. It's not anything. It's just like postmodernism with a fancy building. So there is a limit to how far you can deconstruct. And for me, like, I personally believe that if you have the Bible and you take the things that it says, on its face value, which is to say that God created this world and everything in it, and His works are, present in everything, then you could derive an incredible amount of meaning from just everything in your normal life. But for a lot of people, that's really difficult. And so I think that's where having the ritual and the rhythm and these sort of sacred practices is really helpful. And so, it is good to bring some of those things back. But, it's interesting because I've heard the same thing that you were saying about it being spiritually damaging. Like Jonathan Pajot said that about like people fasting or doing the Jesus prayer too much if they're not like catechumenized into the
that's what
Eastern
we
Orthodox
That's
Church.
what we believe when people take communion, when they're not fully aware of what they're doing.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Even where churches will say, because like we even had communion in our church today, and pastor said like, the verse where it talks about not doing it in an unworthy manner, and there's a lot of interpretation that's needed in that too, even. And I've heard good arguments that of people saying, because I think a lot of Protestant churches will say, don't let your kids have communion until they've made their own decision for to be a Christian, and that this is their faith and they understand it, which I guess is fine. But I've also heard some good people saying, well, you're raising your kids in a faith, and this is part of the practice of their faith. So you don't have to wait. If you as a parent think that that's an instructive part of their learning, to that's at the parent's discretion. So I think there's always a little bit of debate about how rigidly these things must be kept. But I think on the problem, where I see it as a Protestant, why I'm not deciding to become a Catholic, is because I think that they've made it too rigid in the practice. Like, and if it's not the version of whatever officially sanctioned by the Catholic Church, it doesn't count, and it it's bad for you, or it's not good for you, or whatever. And I don't think that's really how God works on those things. For those who are earnestly trying to seek Him, if somebody's earnestly trying to seek God, and they do something that a priest would say is technically out of bounds for them based on their level of education or their experience, I don't think that they're going to get struck by lightning. I mean, and I do think that it could be, I do think there is danger in things, like I would say from our background, we've been involved in a lot of like Pentecostal charismatic churches, and there's definitely people that are going to those kind of like seeking a thrill or something like that. And I think that could be spiritually damaging if you're trying to open yourself up to spiritual experiences and you're not knowledgeable enough of the Bible and the character of God to discern, then a spiritual feeling will seem like a much greater authority than some boring pastor just telling you to love your neighbor or something like that. But one of them is clearly something that God wants for you, and the other one might be something that comes from another spirit. So so there is definitely danger in not using wisdom in your spiritual journey, I would say. So, but yeah, that was me talking a lot there. So somebody else can have a chance.
I want to hear what Mandie thinks.
I mean, I feel like I already espoused what I think.
Okay. Did you guys baptize your children already, or are you gonna wait until?
No,
Okay.
in our church, we do baby dedications where the parents say we are going to endeavor to do everything we can together with this congregation to raise our children up in the way that we believe that they should go. And so we dedicate them to the Lord. So Joe and Lucy have been dedicated, but then we believe that it's the person's choice to be baptized. So when the kids are ready, if they're ready, then they'll decide when they get baptized.
So, what do you think of the Passover? How did it go? Was it your first time, or was it?
No, it was not my first time. I've done it many, 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 many times.
Okay.
My children are too young to sit still. I mean, it was their first time. So granted, and poor Mike was just trying to lead us well. And I knew that particular day the girls were just done. So we didn't even get to do it. Yeah, one of them was sick.
So
pulled the plug on actual Passover night.
We were supposed to do it with my parents and my brother and his family. And then one of our girls was sick. So I went over to my parents' house and did it with my parents and my brother's family. And then the next night we did it together, just the four of us. But it was
because I work with kids so much, like I understand, okay, this is probably their attention span for this particular age group.
It was
and Mike was leading it, and so he really wanted the letter of it to be communicated. And I was realizing these children are not prepared for this. They cannot sit. So I think if he and I had just done it together, it would have been a more enjoyable experience, but I'm glad we did it. And I think that it set the groundwork for future years. I think next year our kids will be in a much better place to go, okay, and here's where we sit, and here's where we take the bitter herbs, and here's where we just the rhythm of it better. But again, it goes back to the beginning of our conversation. You have to start somewhere, and you just teach them and their kids.
Right. No, and actually the Passover Seder, I mean, even from an ultra Orthodox point of view, it's because it is so focused on the children. You do what is necessary to get the children as much participating as they can, and if you need to move on from certain things because they're tired or whatever, that's actually probably the place where we are most flexible in terms of ritual, is actually at the Seder. And like I told Mike, if you guys are 100% welcome at your local Chabad, like they will love to have you, because as far as we're concerned, you're Jewish, and your kids are Jewish.
He's not, though. I always wanted to marry a Jewish man. That did not happen.
You know what? At this point, you have kids together, and while they're not going to call him up to the Torah, he is 100% welcome at every event, and because once you have kids, he's the father of Jewish kids, and they're going to want you as involved as anybody. Like, I wish a lot of the people who are involved in our so, for example, Antonio, who he's not Jewish, but he believes Judaism is true. He really does believe Judaism is true. And he's not looking to convert to Judaism, and Judaism doesn't say that he needs to. And like he's planning on getting married, and getting a rabbi who's willing to even talk to him has been impossible. Because they're like, we don't proselytize, we don't, and I've had other people who, were raised Jewish. Somebody else from our server, who everybody should know who I'm talking about, he was raised Jewish. That's the only religion he's ever known. He wants to raise his kid Jewish, but his mother wasn't Jewish. The kid's mother is not Jewish. So like, he's tried going to Chabad, and the rabbi's like, was very nice to him, as he would be to somebody who's not really welcome, but was like, we're not here for you, and they're not. And so I'm in this weird position, and Noah says Judaism wasn't always so closed and hereditary. There's a reaction post. I'm not sure I agree with that. I do think, we've had this issue for thousands of years, and yes, Christianity certainly complicated it. But like, I would love for some of the people who are involved in our community to be as welcome as Michael would be. But because he's the father of Jewish children. And
so I've always wondered how to prove that, because so I went on a birthright trip.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just fascinated by them, like, checking my lineage and deciding that I was worthy enough, that I had qualified enough, because they first turned down my brother the first time. And I would say
if
that
your mother's mother has a ketubah, was married or Orthodox, and if you have that ketubah and your lineage from her, you are 100% Jewish. You are as Jewish as anyone.
They actually wouldn't let him go on the birthright trip the first time that he applied. And I got to go like the year before. And so he was so confused. And thankfully he reapplied, and they said, okay, we're going to let you go. But I've always wondered about that.
Do you have a ketubah from your grandmother?
Mm-mm.
You don't have a ketubah.
But my mother's.
Well, the question becomes like, okay, where can they prove that whoever it is? I mean, yeah, they can look at the genealogy, but what's used is an actual ketubah of, for me, for example, my parents were married by an Orthodox rabbi. I have the ketubah, and so as their children, I'm Jewish. And so, yeah, that's how it is proved. So if you can find a ketubah, or even, I mean, a marriage certificate that lists the rabbi who married, there's nothing left. Okay.
It's honestly anything we would have had. It's a very long story, but anything we would have had would have been destroyed.
There's a lot of Jewish. Another way would actually be if you can trace to somebody who's buried in a Jewish in an Orthodox Jewish synagogue.
Mm-hmm.
At a cemetery. So there are ways, and people who. So the question becomes like, why are you trying to prove it? But you could actually claim Israeli citizenship, and the chief rabbinate would make that decision, and probably in your favor, and you could actually claim Israeli citizenship.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
I struggled when Mike and I started dating, because I am only a quarter Jewish at this point, because my mom didn't marry someone who was, just the bloodline. And so marrying Michael meant that my kids would only be an eighth. And I was really bothered by that. And then I decided I loved him too much and it didn't matter. But I was really, when I was younger, that really mattered to me.
As far as Jewish law is concerned, you are 100% Jewish, and your children are 100% Jewish.
But I'm getting that information from the birthright people, where I was like fighting my way to explain that I was really actually Jewish and that I qualify.
So, well, yeah, who was birthright through though? Which group were you doing birthright through? You have to choose an agency with which.
Honestly, been so long.
And I'm guessing, my real guess is because, so there's a lot of internal politics. Yeah. Reform has started doing this patrilineal descent thing, and what people have started saying to them is, you're making everybody in the world Jewish, right? Because if you have one ancestor, and they're like, no, if you were raised Jewish and your father or mother, so they've Reform especially, and that they're the largest group, and conservative to some extent, have so moved on from Jewish law that they're not comfortable making the same assertions. And outside the United States, in Israel, the chief rabbinate is only Orthodox. Outside of the United States, basically only Orthodox Judaism exists. So I have to wonder, but like, I mean, I definitely encourage you to contact the local Chabad, because they would be ecstatic to have you. They would be absolutely ecstatic to have you and involved. And I would be ecstatic to learn for you to be involved. And I would love to hear that you're lighting Shabbat candles, because that would like make my whole life worthwhile.
As soon as my youngest doesn't decide that she's Evel Knievel, we will start lighting.
Age 3 is when little girls are encouraged, and like the local rabbi will get you a Shabbat lighting candle, a kit, and they would be very, very happy to have you guys over for Shabbat dinner. And you should go. So for me, I don't know how much of my story Michael told you, but I was living an Orthodox life. And it just became very clear to me that that's not what God wanted for me. And so I gave up everything, and I was suicidal. I was like, I had no idea what I was going to do in life. And I decided, I'm just going to live a secular life. And that's how I got involved in Jordan Peterson and stuff. And by this weird roundabout way, about 2 years ago, I got involved in the Bridges of Meaning server. And I had a little epiphany regarding Jesus, which I've talked to Michael about a little bit. And I found myself in a place where a lot of people who, like you, who are in fact Jewish, but would never have any connection to somebody with the Orthodox beliefs that I do and the background that I do. Like I have come into contact with so many people in that situation who are halakhically Jewish, but if I weren't where I am, they would have no connection with actual Orthodox Judaism. Because if I was living the life that I envisioned for myself, I wouldn't be talking to Michael. I would never be talking to Michael. And I certainly wouldn't end up talking to his wife. I would be taking care of my wife and kids in a very insular, like I would be learning Torah all day, and I would be living the Orthodox life, which I am not. And for me, it's just become like, okay, I feel like God's put me in a place where I can be a resource to people like you. So when I say, like, if you were to light Shabbat candles, it, because I would feel like everything I went through was worthwhile so that you would have that connection.
Thank you for making yourself vulnerable.
So, when am I going to let you guys go? Because I can tell you are very, very tired. What did you guys want to talk about? And what are we going to say after that moment?
Oh, something about the Trinity or John.
Paul of Tarsus and how important it is not
Okay, so
to.
I would love to hear, Jacob, why Paul of Tarsus is kind of a rub to you. I'm interested.
Okay, so my epiphany about Jesus, when I and this is another thing that when I start talking, I start crying. My epiphany about Jesus was, so what happened when I got on Bridges of Meaning was people started asking about things that were that I had never explored, because my idea had always been Christians know their Bible far better than I ever will. And if they tell me Jesus taught that he was God, then he must have taught that he's God, right? And that if they taught that Jesus taught whatever, that they must be correct, right? And so that had been my engagement, and I had always engaged with Christians with the idea, look, if you can convince me that Jesus was the Messiah, I would be ecstatic. I am looking forward to the Messiah. If it's Jesus, I want to know. But I had never engaged directly with the Gospels.
Mm-hmm.
I had always engaged through knowledgeable Christians, because I figured me picking it up is never going to be like actually engaging with somebody who actually had this is their life. And I believe that is actually true with Orthodox Judaism.
Well, that's what I was going to say. That sounds very much like what I've experienced in the Jewish faith, and people feeling like you experience Judaism through the community, and what you know of God is very likely because of what you've seen from your parents and your rabbi and your community leaders.
It's a huge part of it. And yes, I mean, obviously studying scripture is incredibly important. Anybody who pays any attention to me knows how much I love scripture. But so that was my engagement with Christianity, and that was my engagement with Jesus. And so what happened on Bridges of Meaning is people would ask me about the Jewish context of the things that Jesus said. And I started actually paying attention and reading on the inside, trying to understand what Jesus was saying,
Mm-hmm.
without listening to what Christians would tell me Jesus was saying.
Mm-hmm.
And I discovered a Jesus who's Jewish, like not just born Jewish, but like Jewish. And to the point where there was this thing, I was trying to understand communion, and like how they had gone from Kiddush to communion. Like, how did this happen, and what was Jesus teaching? And all of the descriptions in the Gospels are talk about Jesus says, "This is my blood. This is my blood poured out."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right? And generally, we think poured out as in poured into a cup to drink, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I started thinking, hold on, poured out. What's he saying? And triggered something which is a very esoteric part of Judaism that very few people know about. It's not something like it's something far, far beyond what vast majority of people have ever heard of, which is this concept of Mashiach ben Yosef, and it's a whole thing which and the Seder, and um, I saw a Jewish Jesus, and I talked to Paul Vanderplay, and he's like, yeah, no, it's poured out as in like spilled on the floor. And I cried for like 2 hours, because I felt like Jesus was the most betrayed person in history, betrayed by Judaism, but betrayed even more by Christians. Because, and I realize this is really, really offensive, but it's what I believe. Vast majority of Christians have no capacity to understand what Jesus was saying because they don't have the Jewish background to understand what Jesus was saying. And as far as I'm concerned, from everything I've seen, Jesus was teaching Judaism, and Paul is the person who hijacked Christianity away from Jesus' teachings and Judaism. And that's why I call him Baal of Tarsus. Like he took what I feel is the perfectly Jewish teachings of Jesus and completely perverted them.
Okay.
Yeah.
You don't think that he expounded upon them and enlightened them to enable them to be digestible? I mean, I could see how it would be offensive. I'm not assuming that this is what you think, but like based on what you were saying about an Orthodox person not welcoming someone who was a Gentile into their fellowship. And so I could see how Paul's trying to enable, like saying, I think that the gospel is also for the Gentile as well as the Jew, could be offensive.
This is the thing. I do believe that Christianity is Judaism viewed through a glass darkly. I don't think vast majority of Christians are willing to accept the idea that there is a priesthood of Israel in the world as the firstborn. And people chafe at that. And my first question to them is, well, don't you believe that, first to the Jew, then the Gentile? Don't you believe that Jesus was like the firstborn of like the new Adam and stuff like that? So why are you chafing at the idea that, and it's funny, but there are Christians who are coming to this idea, which is a Jewish idea, which a lot of people have a hard time swallowing. We have a caste system in Judaism, and I am unapologetic about that because it's what the Torah teaches. And so there is Kohen, Levi, Israel, Gentile, and that doesn't mean that I, as Israel, am not loved by God. God, I believe God loves me, but I believe that I have a different position than the Kohanim, than the Levites, and I believe Gentiles do have a different position. And yeah, I mean, Christianity has been, there's no Jew or Gentile, there's no man or woman, there's no slave or free in Christ Jesus. And to some extent, I can agree with that. But again, I think that the craziness of the world points to those things which are most wrong. And what is the craziest thing in going on in our society right now? The idea that there's no man or woman in Christ Jesus, right? So I view it exactly the same. The idea that there's no Jew or Greek in Christ Jesus, I think there's a reason why that's all together, because I do believe God created Christianity in order, like Maimonides said almost 1,000 years ago, in order for Jewish ideas to spread throughout the world so that people could recognize them when the actual Messiah, and I don't believe Jesus. I have weird beliefs about Jesus. I certainly don't believe he's the Messiah, as in the Davidic Messiah. And I do believe the Davidic Messiah is going to come, and I do believe we're like miraculous things are happening, but those miraculous things include the fact that 50 years ago, 60 years ago, there were 0 Noahides in the world. Today, as best we know, there's about 100,000 people who consider themselves Noahides, including Antonio, who,
So
is it's quite all right. I will let you go, but including Antonio, who it's amazing to me that I know a Gentile who he's like, yeah, I believe Judaism is true, and I'm a Gentile, and like, it's knowing Antonio has been one of the craziest things in my life. But over the past 2 years, so many things have been crazy in my life because, it like, I do feel like we're seeing miraculous things, and that miraculous thing for me includes what I see is an unfolding of Christianity into full view so that people can see the full light of the Torah and no longer look at through the glass darkly that I believe Christianity is. And I realize, like, this is a very different view of the world than Christians have. But I want you to see the fullness of the light in the same way that Christians often would say to me they want me to see the fullness of the light.
what were you going to say?
Well, I mean, I'm opposed to any. I'm very against any like restriction of information or knowledge or anything like that. And I would say that I think, historically, when like Christians have, if they had said like, don't study too much about Judaism or any of this stuff, like, because like I hate it. I hate it when Christians say that about anything, like, because
Just be dumb. Just believe it.
no, I mean,
because.
it's okay. It's okay. Like, if a pastor is knowing like where a person's at and saying like, listen, you've been a Christian for 2 weeks. Don't start reading this crazy thing or whatever. Like, that's good advice, to give to an individual. But the categorical, like, the which it's not just every sect has this impulse to say like, this is our space and don't go beyond it and don't read those books. And I think that that's a big mistake, and I think that just let everybody read everything they want and come to their own conclusions. And I'm not worried about it, because I think when you try to hide anything from anybody and then they find out about it, then it ruins your credibility. And so
And if you believe that God is the God of truth,
yeah.
you should not be scared of truth. And I believe God is the God of truth. If Jesus is the Messiah, I want to know. And I've always wanted to know. And it's, for me, the only way to know that was through engaging religious Christians. And what was shocking to me was like to encounter a Jewish Jesus. And there's a Rabbi Lichtenstein who I had a lot of disagreements with. He lived like 100 years ago in Europe, and he never actually got baptized, but he was he said, one of the things he said which really stuck with me is, I looked into the Gospels expecting thorns, and I got a bouquet of roses. And he's not the only person to say that. There was another rabbi who wrote a whole thing. There's been a few. And it's like, the Jesus that I've seen and I'm actually working on writing a book about this. The Jesus that I've seen is 100% Jewish. Is
Oh yeah,
100%
and he
Jewish.
never claims to be anything other than that. I think the sticking point for me in someone saying I believe he's Jewish, but I don't believe he's the Messiah. He always claims that he's going to come back, and so
Well, all of us are. Everybody is going to come back. We believe in the resurrection of the dead.
well, but he says he's going to be the one to usher in the new heaven and the new earth, and that he's going to usher in the new age. And so, if he is doing that, then that means that claim makes him audaciously a liar or a lunatic, or
No, I don't think so.
the Lord.
No, because there's the four craftsmen. There are the four craftsmen.
Mm-hmm.
This is from I believe it's either Ezekiel or Zechariah for the four craftsmen, which is Elijah, the priestly Messiah, the Davidic Messiah, and the Josephite Messiah. And I believe Jesus, and I have weird beliefs about Jesus, was the Josephite Messiah, not the Davidic Messiah.
But why does anyone need more than one Messiah? Because the definition of Messiah is the one who comes to save, but it's
No,
one to save.
No. Messiah just means, so the Bible refers to Cyrus as the Messiah of God. The only person that the Bible the only time it actually says Mashiach, the only time it actually says the word Messiah is when Isaiah is calling Cyrus the Messiah. And the idea of Mashiach, of being anointed, there's all kinds of anointings all through the Bible. The king is anointed, the tabernacle is anointed, and there are the four craftsmen. Let me look up four craftsmen, because so the four craftsmen is in Zechariah 1:21. And so I believe those are four different people, and that's because from a Jewish standpoint, when people say, like when Christians say Jesus is the Messiah, it's like there's a complete disconnect there, because that to me says the Messiah has come, we are living in the Messianic era, and Jesus is the Messiah. Whereas if you're saying what Christians mean to a Jewish audience, you would say, I believe Jesus will be the Messiah, right? Because Christians don't believe that Jesus has fulfilled the prophecies of the Messiah. But most Christians don't even know that.
You know Scripture better than a lot of Christians.
So it's an audacious thing to say, but yeah, I do. I understand the scriptures in ways that I don't think somebody who I don't think you can understand without the background that I have in studying Talmud and studying, and it's like I just don't think the vast majority of Christians have any capacity to understand what Jesus was saying, which is an audacious thing for somebody like me to say.
Okay, we have to go to bed.
Okay.
All right.
Anytime you want back, and please do consider lighting Shabbat candles, Mandie.
It's very nice to meet you, Jacob. He speaks very highly of you a lot.
I'm glad. I'll talk to you guys later.
Have a good night.
Good night.
Bye-bye. Okay, I will stick around for like 5 minutes, but not much more. So Noah, you said Judaism was not always so closed and hereditary. How do you say that and read Ezra? Right? I mean, when you look at what Ezra did, when he, I believe it's Ezra Chapter 10. So let me pull it up. So Ezra chapter 10. While Ezra was playing, maybe it was 9. So, like, after these things had been done, the leaders came to me and said, the people of Israel, including, have not kept themselves separate from their neighboring peoples with their detestable practice. They have taken of their daughters as wives for themselves and their sons, and they mingled the holy race with the peoples around them. And Ezra sends these people back. I mean, what do you do with that? It's and he sent the children back with their thing, with their mothers, and so it's like, I'm sorry, like, yeah, Paul kind of created what we know of as Christianity, yeah, and that's why, like, that was a real surprise to me. I figured that the teachings of Christianity were based on Jesus. I don't think they were. We are all human, and we humans should never assume we know all that God commands, and we should be open to his glory shining through in many ways. Humans are not God. True, but like, how do you reconcile that with 2,000 years of Christianity saying Jesus is God? Jesus brought in the age of Pisces. I suspect he'll be back when it's over. Lines up suspiciously with the Jewish calendar, 6,000 years, by the way. I mean, I do believe that the Jewish calendar is supposed to end within the next 200 years. Jesus also brought in the truth that knowing God was not a tribal thing, but a concept for all humanity. So this is another thing I get really, really exercised about. Judaism never, ever, 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 ever taught that our God is only our God. Isaiah says, my house shall be called a house of prayer for all people. Zephaniah 3:9, which I quote constantly. These are parts of our very clear parts of our Bible, which is the God of Israel is the God of the entire world. But it also says, Beni Bechori Israel, my firstborn son is Israel. Mamlechet Kohanim Tiyuli, you shall be for me a kingdom of priests. And so there is a special role which Israel has in the world, which is ordained by God and different. And I actually would point you to 1 Corinthians 12, which I think explains this. Go to bed. What Ezra did sucked. Well, I mean, what can I tell you? Even his temple was a disappointment. Isn't that the point of Ezra? Yeah. People became part of the tribe, and that was possible. Yes, it is possible to join Israel, but partially we do, like, it says that God chose us because we were a small nation, and we will forever be a small nation. We are not going to rule the world, but we are, I believe, according to Scripture, and I'm not going to apologize for Scripture. I believe in Scripture. That we have a special role in the world, and God gets to decide that. And it's really funny to me that I end up having this discussion with people who like believe in double predestination, or, you know, it's like the people who most believe in the elect and things like that are the people who don't believe that people have their special unique roles, which includes, you cannot have a priesthood without a people. You cannot have, if everybody's a priest, nobody's a priest. And so there must be like a people who are being ministered to. And this is what I think would have stopped Christianity from spreading Jewish ideas. Pure Judaism is just too much truth for most people to handle, and Christianity wouldn't have spread without it. So people became part of the tribe, and that was possible, yeah. Okay, I am going to go. It was very nice talking to all you people. And please leave comments and we can continue this discussion later. Bye.